I walked into my den one morning and stopped cold. My oak desk that held 40 years of handwritten letters was gone. The record player my late husband bought for our anniversary vanished. Even the shelves of first edition novels I'd collected since college had disappeared, leaving pale rectangles on the wallpaper. The room looked ransacked, except nothing was broken, just empty. My daughter Denise leaned in the doorway with coffee in her hand, grinning like she'd done me some grand favor. "Don't be mad, Mom, it's just clutter. I sold it all for you." Her voice carried that fake sweetness she used when she wanted something. I stood there, mouth open, trying to process what she'd just said. My things, my memories, sold? She sipped her coffee, waiting for gratitude that would never come. "You'll thank me when you see how much simpler life is without all that junk," she added, already turning away. But what she took next would cut deeper than anything in that room. I asked her why, keeping my voice steady when I wanted to scream. She gave me that shrug she'd perfected as a teenager. "You're old, Mom. You don't need all that junk weighing you down. I'm simplifying your life." She actually smiled, proud of herself. Then came the kicker. She'd made $3,000 selling my antiques online. $3,000 for items worth 10 times that, for pieces of my soul. "Those weren't just things," I told her, my hands shaking. "Your father gave me that desk when we bought this house. Those books, I read them to you as a child." She laughed, actually laughed. "Then you should thank me for turning dusty memories into cash. You can use it for something practical, like medical bills." She patted my shoulder like I was a confused child. "Trust me, Mom, I know what's best for you." That patronizing tone, that dismissive pat, that was the moment I decided she would learn what it meant to steal from the woman who gave her everything. Later that afternoon, I went looking for my husband's photo albums. Our wedding day, Denise's first Christmas, her brother's graduation, 43 years of family history in leather-bound books. The cabinet where I kept them stood empty. My knees gave out and I had to sit on the floor. She'd sold them to some collector she found online. "They were just taking up space," she said when I confronted her. "Besides, who looks at old photos anymore?" I couldn't speak. Those weren't just photos. They were proof we existed, that we loved, that we built something beautiful together. She'd sold my husband's last birthday party for $50, our anniversary trip to Hawaii for $30. "You're being dramatic, Mom," she said, checking her phone. "It's not like Dad's coming back to look at them." The casual cruelty of it stole my breath. She hadn't just stripped my house, she'd stripped my memories, sold them to strangers like garage sale trinkets. But soon, very soon, she would realize exactly what she had unleashed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of her. I smiled and told her I appreciated her help, even thanked her for thinking of my future. She bought it completely. Denise always thought I was too soft, too slow with technology, too easy to manipulate. "See, I knew you'd come around," she said, already planning her next raid. That evening, I heard her on the phone with her husband, Kyle. I didn't know I was in the hallway. "Mom's finally accepting reality. Once I clear out the rest, we can talk about selling this place. She doesn't need 4 bedrooms. Then came the words that sealed her fate. "A nice assisted living place, maybe 40 grand a year. The house sale will cover it for decades. And the rest?" She laughed. "The rest is ours." She thought she had me cornered, a helpless old woman ready to be warehoused. She had no idea that I'd spent 40 years as a tax accountant, that I understood money better than she ever would. She thought she was playing chess with a fool, but in reality, I was the one setting the trap. That night, after Denise left, I opened my old laptop. She assumed I barely knew how to check email, but retirement had given me time, and time had taught me patience. I found the online marketplace accounts she'd been using, all under her name, but with my address listed. Every photo showed my furniture, my heirlooms, my life being auctioned to strangers. The descriptions were casual, dismissive. Vintage desk, some scratches, price to move. That desk held love letters from my husband during Vietnam. Old books, musty but collectible. First editions I'd saved for, one birthday at a time. I took screenshots of everything, every listing, every sale, every cruel description. The digital trail she'd left was perfect. Timestamps, payment records, shipping confirmations. She documented her own crime in vivid detail. Too arrogant to think her slow, old mother would ever find it all. But I found it all, saved it all, and I already knew exactly how I'd use it. The next morning, I walked to the bank at opening time. Denise had access to one checking account, supposedly to help with bills when I was sick last year. I never removed her name, trusting my daughter like a fool. The banker, Mrs. Foster, knew me for 20 years. I need to close this account, I told her, and move everything to a new one, just my name. She looked concerned. Is everything all right, Mrs. Ellis? I gave her a steady look. My daughter's been helping herself without asking. I need to protect what's left. She understood immediately. We closed the compromised account, opened a new one, and I moved my entire savings into a trust that only I controlled. Denise's name was revoked from everything. Anything else? Miss Foster asked gently. Yes, I said. I need to know about every transaction from that account for the past 6 months. She printed everything. Denise had taken $12,000 in small transfers thinking I wouldn't notice. She thought she was stripping me bare, but I had already stripped her access first, and the first domino was about to fall. At the grocery store that afternoon, my neighbor Gladys pulled me aside near the frozen foods. Heard Denise's husband got himself a brand new truck, she whispered. One of those fancy ones with all the bells and whistles. Must be doing well at that job of his. My jaw clenched, but I kept my expression neutral. Kyle worked part-time at a hardware store. That $40,000 truck was bought with my antiques, my memories turned into his shiny toy. Good for them, I said mildly. Gladys leaned closer. Though strange, just last month Denise was complaining about money troubles at the salon. The whole neighborhood thought my daughter and her husband were suddenly thriving. New truck, new clothes, weekend trips, all funded by selling my life piece by piece. I let them think whatever they wanted. Let them believe in Denise's sudden success. Because soon, very soon, they'd see the truth behind the facade. And when they did, the fall would be that much harder. That evening, Denise came for dinner, talking loudly on speakerphone while cooking. She forgot I was in the next room, or maybe she just didn't care. $5,000 just from her old junk, she bragged to her friend Nicole. Can you believe she held on to all that? Like, who needs a desk from the 60s? Nicole laughed through the phone. Your mom's sweet, but kind of a hoarder, right? Denise snorted. Exactly. I'm doing her a favor. Once I get her moved to a smaller place, I can really clean house. There's china in the attic worth thousands. I sat in my chair, knitting like an old fool, counting stitches while memorizing every word. She went on about her plans, selling the house, finding me a nice little apartment, managing my finances for my own good. She's so gullible, Denise said. Actually thanked me for selling her stuff. They both laughed. But in my head, I was already pulling the strings tighter. Every word was evidence. Every laugh was another nail in the coffin she was building for herself. I met with Mr. Parker, my lawyer, on Tuesday morning. He'd been my student 30 years ago when I taught night classes in accounting. Now he was one of the best estate attorneys in town. I showed him everything, the screenshots, the bank records, the evidence of systematic theft. His face grew darker with each page. She's hung herself, Mrs. Ellis, he said finally. This is elder financial abuse, clear as day. We can file charges if you want. I shook my head. No charges, not yet. I want something better than jail for her. We spent 2 hours drafting new documents. My house went into an irrevocable trust with my grandson as the beneficiary after my death. Denise couldn't touch it. My pension, my savings, every asset locked away from her grasping fingers. There's one more thing, Mr. Parker said. We can demand restitution for what she sold, force her to pay it back. I smiled. Oh, she'll pay.
but not with money. I walked out of his office feeling lighter than I had in months. All I needed now was patience. That Thursday night, I set my trap. I left my desk drawer slightly open with a folder visible inside. The label read, "Last Will and Testament" in large letters. Inside was a fake document leaving everything to Denise, the house, savings, even specific items she hadn't stolen yet. I went to bed early, but didn't sleep. At 11:30, I heard the stairs creak. Through the crack under my door, I saw the hallway light flip on. Footsteps to the den, the drawer sliding open, papers rustling, a whispered, "Perfect," in Denise's voice. Then footsteps retreating, the front door closing softly. She thought she'd won the lottery finding proof of her inheritance. She thought she'd outsmarted her silly old mother. But she'd just given me exactly what I needed on my security camera. Breaking into my desk, stealing documents, violating my privacy and trust. She'd handed me proof of her greed, wrapped in a bow of her own arrogance.
Sunday dinner with the whole family was usually at my niece's house. This time, Denise insisted on hosting. She wanted an audience for her performance. Over pot roast, she started her show. "I've been helping Mom so much lately," she announced to her brother Tom and cousins, decluttering, organizing, preparing for the future. Tom raised an eyebrow. "That's nice of you." Denise smiled, so pleased with herself. "Well, someone has to. Mom promised me the house anyway. I'm the one who takes care of her." The table went silent. Tom's fork stopped midway to his mouth. "Mom promised you the house?" he asked slowly. "When?" Denise realized her mistake too late. "I mean, it makes sense. I'm here all the time." I sipped my tea, letting her words hang in the air like a confession. Tom looked at me, and I gave him the slightest shake of my head. No, I hadn't promised anything. Denise had just exposed herself, out loud, in front of 6 witnesses. And soon, very soon, those witnesses would matter more than she could imagine. Monday morning, I packed a small bag and drove 2 hours to stay with my grandson, James, without telling anyone. I turned off my phone and spent a peaceful week helping him paint his new apartment. Meanwhile, Denise lost her mind. She called 43 times. She texted frantically. "Where are you? Are you okay? Why aren't you answering?" By day 3, she was knocking on neighbors' doors asking if they'd seen me. She called the police for a welfare check on an empty house. She even called Tom, accusing him of hiding me. When Mrs. Patterson next door called James to check if I was all right, I could hear the smile in her voice. "Your mother is going door to door like a crazy person, claims you disappeared." James laughed. "Grandma's right here teaching me how to make pie crust." I took the phone. "Tell Denise I'm fine. Just needed a break from all her help." The message got back to her within hours. She had no idea I was watching her panic from afar, documenting every desperate attempt to find her meal ticket. When I returned home, the mail was stacked high on the entry table. Denise had been checking it, based on the torn envelopes. But she'd missed one addressed to Kyle and Denise Morrison, their mortgage company. I held it up to the light and could see the bold words through the paper. Notice of pending foreclosure. They were 3 months behind on payments. That new truck, those weekend trips, the designer clothes, all purchased while their house payment went unpaid. I carefully placed the letter back in the pile, unopened. Let them find it themselves. Their flashy new life, built on my stolen memories, was already crumbling. The antiques were gone, spent on temporary pleasures, and now the bills were coming due. I made myself tea and sat by the window, watching Denise's car pull up. She looked haggard, stressed, older than her 38 years old. Good. She had no idea her financial house of cards was collapsing, and I planned to watch every single brick fall. At the next family gathering, my sister's 70th birthday, I waited for the perfect moment. Denise was holding court,
complaining about how hard she worked taking care of me. That's when I stood up, tapping my glass gently. "I have something to say." The room quieted. Family should know that Denise has been selling my belongings without permission. My husband's desk, our photo albums, 40 years of memories, sold online. Gasps rippled through the room. Denise went white, then red. "Mom, that's not—" I pulled out my phone, showing the screenshots. Here are the listings, my address, her account name, dates and times. I passed the phone around. "She sold my late husband's watch last week, the one his father gave him." My sister Gloria looked horrified. Tom's face was stone. Denise stammered, "I was helping. Mom's confused." But the evidence was right there. Her username, Denise Deals 2023, on every listing. She tried to grab the phone, but Tom held it away. "You sold Dad's things?" he asked quietly. "After everything?" She had no answer. The room's judgment was suffocating. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, Kyle trailing behind. But the damage was done. The first blow, public and undeniable. The next morning, Denise called screaming, "You humiliated me, your own daughter." I let her rant, then spoke calmly. "You stole from me, your own mother." She switched tactics, crying about the bank account. "I locked me out. I can't pay bills." I stayed steady. "You stole $12,000, Denise. I have the records." Silence. Then, "That was for your care, for helping you." My voice turned to ice. "Helping yourself to a new truck, you mean? Did you think I was too stupid to notice?" She hung up, but called back an hour later, begging, "Mom, please, we're in trouble. The mortgage." I cut her off. "The mortgage on the house you bought while stealing from me, you mean? That's your trouble, not mine." She sobbed. "You're really going to let us lose everything?" I thought about my husband's albums, sold to strangers. "You already sold everything that mattered to me. Now you're learning how that feels." I hung up. The bank records showed she'd already tried using my old account numbers 3 times that morning. All declined. Trust was for daughters who protected their mothers, not ones who stripped them bare. I spent the next week tracking down buyers from Denise's online sales. Most were untraceable, but one name appeared repeatedly: Antique Hunters 49. I messaged him through the marketplace, explaining the situation. Turned out he was a retired professor named William, who specialized in family heirlooms. When I told him about the photo albums, his response was immediate. "I wondered why someone would sell these. They're clearly personal. I'll return them, no charge." We met at a coffee shop downtown. He handed me 3 albums, still in perfect condition. "I could tell these meant something," he said gently. "No one sells their whole family history unless something's wrong." I opened one album, seeing my husband's young face, our wedding day, Denise as a baby. Tears came despite myself. "Thank you," I whispered. Not everything could be recovered. The desk was already resold, the books scattered to different buyers. But these albums, these memories, were back where they belonged. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt like I'd won something back. Denise's grip on my life was loosening, one recovered memory at a time. Thursday morning, I was watering my roses when the tow truck arrived next door. The driver hooked up Kyle's shiny black pickup while Denise ran out in her bathrobe, screaming, "You can't take it! We're getting the money!" The driver just handed her paperwork and continued working. 3 months behind on payments, ma'am. Nothing I can do." She called Kyle, who came running from the house. They argued with the driver, threatened to call police, offered him cash they didn't have. The whole neighborhood came out to watch. Mrs. Patterson pretended to check her mail. The Johnsons across the street suddenly needed to wash their car. Everyone saw Denise and Kyle's humiliation as their prized truck disappeared down the street. Denise saw me watching and screamed, "This is your fault. You did this." I just turned back to my roses. Let her scream. Let everyone hear. The truck bought with my memories was gone, repossessed like the stolen goods it represented. This was just the beginning of her public humiliation. Denise tried using my old account one more time at the grocery store. Declined. She called from the parking lot, hysterical. "I can't even buy food. You're letting us starve." I stayed calm. "You have a job, Denise. Kyle works. Budget better." She screamed, "You betrayed me. You're my daughter." The words hung between us. "No, Denise, you betrayed me. You stole from me, planned to put me in a home, sold my memories for pocket change. This is balance, not betrayal." She sobbed. "I was trying to help you." But we both knew the truth. You were helping yourself to my life savings. The $3,000 from my antiques? Where is it? Silence. "Gone," she finally whispered. "Spent. On a truck that just got towed, on clothes she couldn't afford, on a lifestyle built on theft. Then we have nothing more to discuss." I hung up. She'd frozen me out of my own life, and now she was getting a taste of that isolation. But I hadn't delivered the final strike yet. That was still coming. 2 weeks later, Tom called. "Kyle left," he said simply. "Took what money they had hidden and disappeared." I wasn't surprised. Kyle only stayed for the benefits, the supplemented income, the stolen goods, the false prosperity. Without those, Denise had nothing to offer him. That evening, she showed up at my door. No makeup, hair unwashed, looking older than me. "Mom, please, I need help." She was shaking. "Kyle took everything. The house is being foreclosed. I have nowhere to go." I studied my daughter, this stranger who'd sold my life. Help is for daughters who protect their mothers, not ones who strip them bare and plan their imprisonment. She fell to her knees. "I'm sorry. I was wrong." But sorry didn't bring back the desk where I'd written love letters to her father. Sorry didn't return the books I read to her as a child. Go to Tom, or Gloria, or any family member you haven't betrayed yet. I closed the door on her sobs. She thought she'd hit rock bottom, but she hadn't. Not yet. The foreclosure notice appeared in the newspaper. Morrison property, forced auction, April 15th. The whole town would know. Denise had 30 days to vacate the house she could no longer afford. She begged Tom for money, but he remembered her bragging about inheriting everything. She asked Gloria for a loan, but Gloria remembered the family dinner humiliation. Even her friend Nicole stopped returning calls. She'd burned every bridge while building her throne of stolen goods. I drove past her house one evening. Dark windows, overgrown lawn, the foreclosure notice taped to the door. The neighborhood that had envied their sudden wealth now whispered about their spectacular fall. Mrs. Henderson told everyone at church. The bank teller mentioned it at the grocery store. Denise's reputation, built on my stolen belongings, crumbled publicly. She was the woman who robbed her mother and lost everything. The auction was in 2 weeks. She didn't know who'd be bidding. She didn't know who'd been saving every penny, waiting for this exact moment.
The next town hall meeting was about community security. Denise showed up trying to speak about financial struggles in the neighborhood. But when she stood up, people actually turned their backs. She started talking about predatory lending, but Mrs. Patterson said loudly, "Didn't she rob her old mother?" Whispers rippled through the room. "Sold her dead father's belongings. Elder abuse. Should be in jail." Denise's face burned red. She tried to continue, but the council president interrupted. "Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. Anyone else?" She sat down, humiliated. After the meeting, no one spoke to her. She walked to her car alone while groups of neighbors discussed her family's crimes. One woman said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Can't trust someone who steals from their own mother. What else would they do?" Denise's reputation, her social standing,
her place in the community, all destroyed. The woman who thought she was so clever, who laughed about her gullible mother, was now the town pariah. Her name had become a cautionary tale. But her most crushing blow was still ahead. Auction day arrived cold and clear. The courthouse steps filled with bidders. I sat quietly in the back row, wearing my best coat and the pearl necklace my husband gave me, one thing Denise hadn't found. She stood at the side, watching her life go up for sale. The auctioneer started the bidding at $100,000. A few investors raised hands, pushing it to $120, $130. At $140, I raised my hand. Denise's head snapped around. Her face went white when she saw me. The other bidders continued, $150, $160. I stayed steady, raising my hand each time. At $175, the others dropped out. Sold! The gavel came down. To Mrs. Ellis. I'd bought my daughter's house with the money she thought was hers, the money she planned to steal when she put me in a home, the savings she had already spent in her mind. Denise pushed through the crowd, tears streaming. "Mom, you can't do this!" But I could, and I did. That was the moment she realized she lost everything. Her marriage, her reputation, her home, and any claim to my money. The woman who thought she was so clever, who laughed about her gullible mother, was now the town pariah. Her name had become a cautionary tale. But her most crushing blow was still ahead. After the auction, Denise cornered me on the courthouse steps. "Mom, please, I'm your daughter, your blood." I looked at her steadily. "A daughter protects her mother. You betrayed yours." She grabbed my arm. "Where am I supposed to live?" I removed her hand gently but firmly. "That's no longer my concern. You should have thought about that before selling my husband's watch, before stealing from my accounts, before planning to warehouse me like old furniture." She broke down completely, sobbing on the courthouse steps while people walked around her. "I'm sorry. I'll do anything." But sorry couldn't undo months of systematic theft. Sorry couldn't restore the trust she had shattered. "You made your choices, Denise. Now live with them." I walked to my car, leaving her crying on cold concrete. Tom would probably take her in, for a while. Or maybe she'd finally learn what it meant to stand on her own feet without stealing someone else's foundation. But that wasn't my problem anymore. Her tears wouldn't change what came next. I spent the next month clearing Denise's belongings from my new property. Box by box, I removed the expensive furniture she couldn't afford, the designer clothes bought with my money, the remnants of a false life built on theft. Some items I donated, others I threw away. In the empty house, I began rebuilding my den. The shelves weren't as full as before, but the photo albums sat where they belonged. I found a desk at an estate sale, not as nice as my husband's, but honest. Piece by piece, I reclaimed what I could of my life. The books were mostly gone forever, but I started a new collection. The record player was irreplaceable, but I bought a simple radio. The room would never be the same, but it was mine again. I sat in my old chair with my husband's photo album open on my lap. His face smiled at me from our 40th anniversary. I protected what mattered. She'll never touch our memories again. For the first time in months, sitting in my reconstructed den, I felt peace. I sent Denise one final letter, addressed to Tom's house where she was sleeping on his couch. Inside was a copy of the auction deed with my name as the new owner of her former home. I'd included a photo of my rebuilt den, the albums prominently displayed. At the bottom, I wrote in my careful handwriting, "You sold my life without asking. Now I own yours. Every room you lived in, every wall you touched belongs to me. I'll rent it to a nice family who values what they have. The rent will fund my retirement, the one you tried to steal. Your inheritance? You already took it and spent it on a truck that got repossessed. This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness, when you betray the person who loved you most. I'm still your mother, but I'm no longer your victim. Don't contact me again. I mailed it on a Tuesday. Tom later told me she read it once, then burned it in his backyard. But burning paper doesn't erase truth. Her downfall was complete, and it was entirely her own doing. She played a game she couldn't win against an opponent she underestimated. I was just an old woman with old things until I wasn't. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, comment, and smash the subscribe button. Also, check out other videos on the channel. Feminine Revenge has got more thrilling stories for you.